What's up, guys? My name is Tim. This is New Craft Workshop. If you have been here before, welcome back. We definitely appreciate you guys joining us again. If this is your first time here, welcome in. You have picked a really good video to check out the channel on today, because today we are giving you 5 really cool builds you can do for the upcoming holidays. So the way we do things on my channel is we break each build into a fairly detailed step-by-step instruction. I pop up a cut list and a tool list, and then I show you each and every step we need to do this. Your job at the end of this video is going to be to go down in the comments and let me know your thoughts. Make sure you give us a thumbs up for our work today. And if you have not already, go ahead and click that subscribe button and join us all the time for some really cool beginners to intermediate projects that we do out here in the shop. So enough talk. It is the holiday season. Let's get into some holiday builds right now with build number 1. All right, let's get after build number 1, that cool little Christmas tree you just saw there that has the branches that you can spin around and kind of position however you want. But you've probably seen them on YouTube. We're going to give you our variation of it here today. I'm going to teach you step by step how to build it, and then it's up to you. If you've been here before, you know what's coming, to make it your own. If you're new here, let me tell you what we do. We give you guys a very basic blueprint. The tree I'm making today is going to be a total of about 16 inches tall. You absolutely positively should and could make this your own. Change up the dimensions a little bit, make this thing taller, change your base up, paint it differently, stain it differently. I don't care. Make it your own. I'm giving you a blueprint, and then you have to get out in your shop and make these projects customized to meet your style and your wants and needs. So that's it. As always on our channel, we start with our cut list. Now, I've got a scrap piece of 1x4 right here. We're going to wind up cutting this scrap piece of 1x4 down to 9 inches long. And then we have some 1x2s. I have ripped mine at the table saw, but if you buy them at the big box store, they're going to be the exact same size, 3/4 of an inch by 1.5 inches. 1x2 is not 1x2. If you know that, if you don't know that, that's what it is. Now, yes, I do have my cheat sheet today. We are going to need a total of 16 pieces cut from our 1x2s. We're going to need a 3-inch piece, a 3.5-inch piece, a 4-inch piece, a 4.5-inch piece, all the way up to a 10-inch and a 10.5. So we're going to need a 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 3.5, 4.5, 5.5, all the way up to 10.5. That's going to give us 16 pieces. That's going to make our actual tree 12 inches in height. And we're going to need a little bit of our dowel hanging out for our finial on top, a little bit for the trunk of it, and then a little bit to go into the base. That's why we're going to need to cut our dowel at 16 inches long. That's your cut list. Next up, we have our tool list. Pretty basic on this one. We're going to need a saw to cut everything to length, and we're going to need our drill press or drill, in your case if you don't have a drill press, and we are going to need a Forstner bit. This is 5/8 of an inch dowel, so I'm going to use a 3/4 inch Forstner bit. I want these to be able to move a little bit. We can always glue them in place if we choose to, but you don't want to try to shove 16 pieces down onto this dowel. If they are extremely tight fitting, you're going to wind up getting frustrated and maybe even breaking your dowel. So that's it. Let's get right after this build. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to start marking out our pieces. Again, we're going 3, 3.5, 4, 4.5, etc. So all I'm going to do is just start marking this 3-inch, 3.5, 4, 4.5, etc. all the way down. So once I get all of this marked out, we're going to head over to the miter saw and get everything cut to length. So let's get after it. All right, everything is marked. Follow me over here. Let's get over this miter saw and get this going. All right, so we're back from the saw, and this is what we have. Now, in order to find the center of this, we could measure each individual piece, put a mark on it. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to lay these out like this. And then, like everything else we do here on the channel, we're going to kind of line these up by eye. We do a lot of eyeballing here because we make a lot of rustic stuff. We don't make a lot of precision stuff here in our shop. So I'm just going to kind of center these by eye, because once these are on the dowel and you rotate them, if one side is 1/8 of an inch longer than the other side, it is not going to be a big deal. I can tell you right now, no one's probably ever even going to notice. So I am going to find the center of this particular board, which we cut to 10.5. Half of that would be 5.25. And then I'm just going to run a straight line up there. If I can find something straight, and again, just going to kind of eyeball this. I'm going to measure this one right here. This is 1.5, and then we'll just connect those two lines. And there's our center of each of these. Now we're going to head over to the drill press, and we're going to drill our hole in the center of each one of these boards, and then we can start the assembly. Let's get it. All right, so this is our 9-inch piece. I've went ahead and found the center of this particular board right here. This is the base 9-inch piece that we cut. I didn't show myself cutting it because I think you guys can figure out you need to cut a 9-inch piece. So what we're going to do now is, if I can get this freaking bit out of here, sorry about that, guys. We're going to drill our hole in the base of this, but our hole in the base of this needs to be the same size diameter as our actual dowel. So I'm going to switch this out to a 5/8 inch, just to make sure that we are nice and tight when we do our glue up. We don't want the play when our dowel goes in here that we want when our pieces are able to rotate. So this one's going to get the same size diameter as your dowel. In my case, it is a 5/8 inch. All right, so everything is ready to go. So it's time to start this assembly. We are going to glue our dowel into our base. We don't want this particular piece moving around. So we're just going to put a little bit of glue here and force this into our base. No need to tack this or anything. When this glue dries, it's going to be more than adequate to hold this little tree in place. So if you choose to stain or possibly paint your tree, I would recommend taking your pieces and getting them painted now. I am not going to paint mine now because I don't know what my wife is going to want to do with this. So we are going to tack this in place. Everything else is going to just slip on like we talked about anyway. I'm not going to glue my finial on top as of yet. So the only thing that we'll have to paint while it's in place is this assembly right here. And I can handle that. So I am going to drop a little bit of glue and tack this in place, just the bottom piece. And before I do that, what I want to do is I want to take all of these pieces and put them on. And it doesn't matter if right now that they're not in the same order. I'm just trying to get an idea of where I want this bottom piece mounted. I mean, look, technically, like, I could totally throw this up on Etsy and call it modern art, right? So we just need a little bit of this top piece sticking out. So I'm now going to come down here and put a pencil mark at the bottom of this bottom piece. That's where I'm going to tack our biggest piece in place. So I am going to lay this down right here, and just drive one brad into here to tack this in place. I'm going to do my best to make sure that it is nice and level, because if this one is level, all of the other ones will be level as well. And we're just going to tack this in place. Now that this one is in place, now we can just start dropping everything else on top. And if you're like me and you used your drill press without a piece of wood underneath it, you're going to have a little bit of blowout. Just put that facing down. Again, I'm putting this on right now just to show you guys how this goes together. The finished product you saw in the little intro video clearly has been decorated and it is finished. So we're just going to drop all of these on in the right order. There is our tree. We're just going to kind of spin these branches randomly around. I'm not the decorator in this family, so bear with me here, but you get the idea. This is kind of what it's going to look like. A bunch of 1x2s, a wooden dowel, and a 1x4. I'm going to put this all in the house and let my wife decorate it. Again, you saw the intro video. It looks really nice. This is the basic concept. Again, if you're new to my channel, I give you a blueprint. This is the blueprint. You take this out in your shop, customize it, and make it your own. That's it. Project 1, spinning 1x2 Christmas tree. That's a wrap. Let's get to project number 2. All right, let's get to project 2, this really cool rustic looking patio decor Christmas tree. This thing is made from pallet wood. If you do not have pallet wood, you can use these exact dimensions with 1x4s. It's going to give you the same result. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to get all of our pieces, our horizontal pieces that are going to make up our tree, cut to length. We're going to get that all done over at the miter saw, but before I forget, because I almost did, let's go with our cut list. Right here. So for the tree itself, for all of our horizontal pieces, we're going to need 7 pieces of our pallet wood. And again, if you're not using pallet wood, 1x4s will work. We're going to need a 6-inch, a 9, a 12, a 15, an 18, a 21, and a 24. 7 pieces. That's your measurements for the horizontal pieces. Then we are going to need 1 vertical piece. That piece is going to be 30 inches long. And then we're going to need a piece of 1x6 for our base. And as you can see, this piece of 1x6 is super cool. It's got some staples and nails in it. It's grayed over the years, and this is going to look really, really cool. We are also going to need for our trunk that is going to create our tree, we're going to need 2 pieces at the bottom to stabilize our base, and I'll show you when we get to that point. Those are going to be 3 inches long each. So that's our cut list. Let's get to our tool list. This one is going to be super, super simple. You're going to need a saw to cut everything to length. You're going to need some way to fasten everything together. I am going to use my brad nailer and glue to get our horizontal pieces attached to our trunk, and the trunk will attach to the base with some screws, so you'll also need your drill slash driver. That's it for your cut list. That's it for your tool list. Let's get after this build. So first thing we need to do is we need to measure out our dimensions on all of our horizontal pieces. Again, we're going to go 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21, 24. We're going to head over to the miter saw. We're going to cut all of these to length. Then we're going to get back over here. Oh, and then we need 2 pieces at 3 inches long a piece. I've got tons of scrap here, so I will just cut myself a couple 3-inch pieces off of this right here. So let's head over to the miter saw and let's get all of this stuff cut. All right, let's get this assembly going. This is going to be fairly quick and easy. And as you can see, the piece I'm using for my trunk on the back, it's really, really rough. That's why I'm using it for the back. But I do want the better side, not this really crappy side. I do want the better side facing forward. And the only reason for that is because when we start putting these pieces on here, you are going to see that behind there. And look, if you want to see that rough crap on the back, you do you, right? So all we are going to do for our assembly is we're going to pick the side that we want to go out. We are going to lay these out, and because this is rustic, this is not going to go straight. As you can see, we are kind of making these a little crooked as we go. That's kind of the look we want. Doesn't have to be perfect. And then we are going to simply tack this in place. We're going to glue it and tack it in place. Put a couple brads in each one, and that's how this is going to go together. So I'll just put myself a little pencil line here just so I can kind of see where to keep my glue. And then we're just going to put a dab of glue in each section. Not even going to bother spreading this around. This is outdoor rustic. It's going to hold together just fine. All right, I'm going to lay this here. Drive some brads in. I am using 1.25 inch long brads. If you're using 1x4s, you've got 1.5 inches of material to play with. 1.25 inches is what you should be using as well. All right, so there's the basic of our tree. And we've cut these 2 extra pieces. We are actually going to glue and tack this together at the bottom. And hopefully on this camera over here you guys can see. And what that's going to do is just give us more surface area right here to be able to put our base on, and then drive some screws up through and have some material to bite in. If we just tried to hit this, wouldn't be as sturdy as we need it to be. So we are going to put some glue on each one of these pieces. I'm going to tack those in place, and I know for a fact I'm out of nails. Excuse me, brads. I had 2 left in that, wouldn't have made it. And we're just going to put this in place. And so that we don't see the brads through the front, I'm just going to tack these from the back. And then put our second piece on and also tack that from this side. All right, now we have a nice, thick, beefy piece of material down at the bottom that we can drive some screws into. And again, like always on this channel, we are going to completely eyeball where these screws are going to go. I am going to pre-drill. Pallet wood can be a little bit hard sometimes, so I am going to just pre-drill a couple holes in here to where I can drive a few screws through. And I am using exterior deck screws. These are coated. These are not going to corrode, tarnish, rust, streak up, etc. Use something like this for outdoor. And also, I think I didn't mention this at the beginning, use Titebond 3. This is going outdoors. We want something that's going to hold up outdoors, and Titebond 3 is what you need. So we're going to simply attach this by eyeballing it, center, left and right, and driving some screws through here. And because we are screwing into end grain, that is why I put the glue there. The screws are going to hold, but we definitely want some glue on there. And I don't know why, but this board, I must have ran out of nails because this particular board right here isn't very sturdy. So we're going to fix that real quick. Much better. All right. There we go. Super rustic pallet wood Christmas tree. This took all of about 5 minutes to make, and it's from a pallet which is free. Paint this, decorate it, make it your own. Project 2, that's a wrap. Let's get on to 3. All right, project 3 is that cool little snowman you saw that's made from 4x4s. This one is going to be a very quick build. This will be the quickest of the 5 that we do today. So let's get right after this one. For your cut list, you're going to need 3 pieces of a 4x4 cut to 3.5 inches long. That should give you pretty much a cube. We're going to need 3 pieces of that. We're going to need a 2x4. This 2x4 is cut to 2.5 inches long, and yeah, I had to check because I didn't know. And then we're going to need a piece for the brim of the hat. This is cut to 4.25 by 4.25. I basically just took a 1x6, cut it down a little bit to 4.25 by 4.25. This seriously is going to go extremely fast. Wood glue. Find the open one that actually works right now, because if you've been here before, you know that I always struggle with my freaking wood glue. Always. Drop a block on. We want it off center a little bit to give it that kind of homemade, handmade look that we're going for. And then same thing with our top piece. Same thing. Offset it. Doesn't need to be straight. As a matter of fact, we don't want it straight. Then we are going to take our brim of our hat. This is going to go on his head. And this particular thing I will tack down just with a couple brads to hold it in place. And here is the top of his hat. Now, I told you this was super fast. That took, what, 45 seconds? 3 blocks of a 4x4, 4.25 by 4.25 piece of wood. And look, if you don't have the ability or want to cut that down, just use a 1x6 and cut it square. Cut it however you want it. Like I tell you, on every single build, and you're going to hear it every single build today, make this your own. All right, that's it. As you can see, 3 pieces of 4x4, some scrap lumber. You've got a very rustic snowman. Paint it, decorate it, make it your own. What else should I say? That took us about 1 minute and 15 seconds, literally, to build that. So project 3, that's it. Snowman, rustic, on to project 4. All right, project 4, we're going to make that cool little Christmas tree that you just saw out of some scrap 2x4s. This is literally just cut-offs that I have in my lumber cart that I'm glad I didn't clean out. And I listened to my wife, and she said, don't throw those little pieces away. And I'm so glad I didn't, because today we're building this cool Christmas tree. In the process, I am going to show you complete and total beginners who don't own a miter saw, how you can get your angles measured out really, really easily with nothing more than a speed square. Technically, this is a rafters square, but it's more commonly known as a speed square. And I will show you how to use this if you've never used one before to get your measurements cut. So what we are going to do is we are going to basically have our Christmas tree cut out of this. We want our angles, if I can find my pencil, we want our angles right here for our Christmas tree to be at a 25-degree angle. Now, why 25 degrees? Because that's what I want it to be at. So if you want yours to be at 30 degrees, make it your own. I told you I'd get it in on every build today, so make it your own. We're going to do ours at 25 degrees. I have a miter saw that I can set at 25 degrees. This is actually going to work out easier for you knowing what I'm about to teach you if you have a speed square to make all of your marks. So I am really hoping that I can get this camera right here to zoom in, and I'm going to show you guys how this thing works. Hopefully this shows up on camera. So right here on your speed square, this is known as your pivot point. As you can tell right now, with a speed square, we can get our 45 and our 90-degree marks made extremely easy. But along the edge of your speed square, you have angle measurements, marks, tick marks right here that go from 0 to 90 degrees. Now, we want a 25-degree angle, which is right here. Here's how we do that. Here's our pivot point. This is where our cut is going to be made. All we're going to do is rotate on that pivot point until 25 lines up with the edge of our material. I'm trying to hold this up so you guys can see. When 25 lines up with this, you make a mark. This mark is now 25 degrees. That's all there is to using a speed square. If you are a beginner and you do not have a miter saw and all you have is one of those little plastic, like looks like this, one of those plastic miter boxes that you're using, that's great for your 90s, your 45s, and it's really good for smaller stuff, trim and stuff like that. But I would highly recommend, I'll put a link down in the description for a decent one of these over at Amazon. I think you can probably pick one up for less than $15. But this is going to allow you to mark your material at any angle between 0 and 90 degrees. I would recommend getting one of these. We built a hexagon like 2 episodes ago. We built a little hexagon, like little shit holder. And you needed a 30-degree cut on there, and your little plastic miter boxes are not going to have 30 degrees. You could easily make that mark with your speed square by rotating over to the 30-degree mark, drawing your line in it. There's your 30-degree cut. So enough about that. Let's get after that. All right, so the first thing we need to do is we need to head over to the miter saw and we need to get everything cut down. Now, I'm going to take you with me, and I'm not going to wear my mask because I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how we're going to do this and how to make it look the way we want it to look. So let's get all of our material. Let's head over to the miter saw and let's get after this. And yeah, I had to preface that I wasn't wearing my mask because there are some of you out there who are the safety police and, you know, have to make sure I appease everybody. So first thing we're going to do is we are going to rotate our saw over to 25 degrees, which I'm going to go this way today so that I can cut this way so you guys can see. So let me get this first cut done. And I'm going to flip this over and complete my triangle, and then we'll move on to the next step and I'll show you how to mark your next piece. All right, once we have our top piece cut, our next piece, we want it to start, hopefully this shows up on camera. We want our next piece to be inset a little bit on both sides so that it gives the illusion of our tree coming back in. So the first thing I'm going to do is cut my angle on this side. All right, so we've got our first cut triangle and we've got our first cut on our second piece. we want this to overhang a little bit like this. So I'm going to come right here and I'm going to put a mark about 1/2 inch in from this so that when this second cut is made, it overhangs slightly. And as we go down, you'll see how this is going to start forming. So now we can take our second piece and use it for our third piece. Hold on, I'll show you. Again, we can take this piece, overhang it about 1/2 inch, come in here about 1/2 inch, and that's where this next piece is going to get cut. So we're getting that staggered look. Hopefully on camera you guys are seeing this. 2 more to go, and that gives us our height. Now look, you could stop right here. This would be the perfect size for your fireplace mantle, something like that. I'm going a little bit taller because of where this is going in our house. But again, make it your own. I don't know. I think that's more than enough times telling you guys that today. All right, so we're back from the saw, and hopefully you guys kind of understood what I was talking about staggering these joints. I think it's kind of self-explanatory. And look, you could even stagger them a little bit more. The way this thing looks now is great, but you could stagger this, you know, like a full inch on both sides and even give it a little bit different look. You guys know what to do when you're out in your shop and you're doing this for yourself. Now, I am going to put this together in a way that I hardly ever show on my channel because I cater to a lot of beginners, and a lot of beginners don't have a pocket hole jig, but I'm putting this together with pocket holes because this might wind up hanging on the wall, and I can't hang it on the wall if I put something along the back to hold it together, and I don't want to just glue it and clamp it because I'm impatient and I would much rather do that. So I am going to take my pencil that I can never ever find. We'll just use this pen because that's what I got handy. I'm just going to make a couple marks right here. We're just going to kind of eyeball where I want some pocket holes drilled, and on the top one I'm just going to put one because I am going to glue this together. So yeah, I don't know if you guys have ever even seen me use my pocket hole jig, but if you don't own a pocket hole jig, again, I'll put a link down in the description. If you're a beginner, you can pick up a pretty inexpensive pocket hole jig, and it's something that I would highly recommend if you're just getting into woodworking, buying. They can help you with a ton of projects around your shop. I'm not even going to get into all the things that we use it for here, but yeah, I'll put a link down, and I'll put a link down to the one that I own. I own the Craig 720, and honestly, it's the best jig I've ever owned. So let's head over. You can see how this thing works. I'll hook up the vacuum cleaner to it as well, so you can see that this thing totally sucks, like in the best way possible. It's going to suck all this dust out, and there's no cleanup afterwards. But yeah, let's head over and drill some pocket holes. So this particular jig, what's great about it is self-adjusting. I do not have to worry about changing for the thickness of my wood. This particular jig automatically changes for the thickness of the wood that I am using. The only thing I have to change when I use this particular jig is the collar for the thickness of the material that we're going into. So we are using a 2x4, which is 1.5 inches thick. So I have got to set my stop 4.5 inches. Once we do, then our pocket hole jig can get down in here and get our material done. I might give you guys, let me know down in the comments if you want a tutorial on how a pocket hole jig works and what it can do for you out in your shop. Highly recommend getting yourself a jig, but you'll see how this goes together when we're done. Extremely good piece of equipment to have around your shop. This thing assembled. Now, I am 99.99% sure that this is going to wind up indoors. So I am going to use non-waterproof glue, and I'm using the silver non-coated pocket hole screws because if it's going indoors, there's no need for me to have anything that's waterproof. So, as always, my glue has already set up. We're just going to put a bead of glue here, drop our piece on top, and I'm going to lay this flat so that I can drive these pocket hole screws in. And if you guys are interested in learning a little bit more about pocket hole joinery, let me know down in the comments. I have no problem maybe doing a short video showing you guys why you should own a pocket hole jig. You'll find that for projects like this, you're going to absolutely love the fact that now this is ready to go on the wall. You don't have to worry about anything, and these screws hold. Pocket hole joinery is extremely, extremely strong. So yeah, let me know down in the comments if you're interested, and if you are, I will absolutely accommodate and make a video about pocket hole joinery. All right, there you go. Scrap 2x4s. Got a pretty cool little piece of decor for the house. If you wanted this to go outside, just change up your glue and your screws. If you're not familiar with pocket holes, yes, I was digging real quick because that's where I keep my pocket hole screws. They do make blue coated pocket holes screws. These are for outdoor. They have an epoxy coating on them. They are less likely to rust, corrode, streak, all that stuff. And then change your glue to Titebond 3. If you're going to put this outside, you could make this thing like as big as you wanted to. I would recommend, if you're going to go much taller than this, though, we do stabilize the base. You could either put, and this is too big, but I'm going to use it anyway. You could put another piece of 2x4 on the back just to kind of help stabilize this base. I told you at the beginning, this thing is completely customizable. You could take a scrap piece of wood like this, put your tree on here, and now you have a little shelf to put yourself a candle or some other kind of decorations or whatever on. But yeah, Project 4, scrap 2x4 Christmas tree. This thing, once it is decorated, it looks great. This is going to go on our floor, probably by the fireplace, safe distance away, of course, so it doesn't catch on fire. But yeah, that's it. Project 4, we're done. Let's move on to Project 5. All right, Project 5. This piece of like little wall art that you saw, and we're going to do something different with this Christmas tree. Instead of creating a Christmas tree in the positive visual, we're going to do a negative, and we're going to cut our Christmas tree out of our material, and the negative space is going to be our Christmas tree. Now, as far as a cut list, I'm going to pop one up for what I'm doing today. But as always, make this your own, customize it, change the dimensions. You can do whatever you want. Just follow this blueprint and you'll be able to do different shapes, designs, do a snowman, do a star, whatever. We've done tons of stuff like this out in the shop, but this is what we're going to do today. So as always, let's start with our cut list. I am using 2 pieces of pallet wood cut to 19 inches long each. Each one of these are 5 1/4. So my total width is 10 1/2. So my dimensions, 19 by 10 1/2. I've also got some pallet wood that I have ripped down. If you do not have a table saw, you can use 1x2s. These are going to go together basically like this, and we are going to use butt joints because butt joints look extremely rustic to create our frame. These are ripped down to 3/4 of an inch thick, 1 1/4 inch wide, but you can make this out of dimensional lumber from the big box store. You can use 1x6s here and 1x2s for your framing. That's it. I have used pallet wood a few times here on the channel, and I love the way it looks when we do rustic projects like this. I've left the nails in my pallet. Every time I break down a pallet, I leave my nails in. If you want to do that, check out my video, this video right here, where I show you guys how I break down pallets. I cut them with my reciprocating saw, so I leave the nails in. Makes it look extremely rustic. I like the look of it. I think it adds a little character to each of our pieces that we make. Just make sure if you're going to follow my method of breaking down a pallet that you never, ever, ever cut that particular piece of your pallet wood at your miter saw or your table saw, and never, ever, ever run your pallet wood through your planer unless you have used a sensor of some sort to make sure there is zero metal left in your pallet wood. I don't plane my pallet wood, and very rarely do I cut it on my table saw. I do cut it on my miter saw. I just make sure I avoid the nails. So that's enough talk about that. If you're interested in that video, check it out. I'd appreciate you giving it a view. All right, we're going to, again, I'm sorry. I know you guys see this all the time. And I was laughing one time because I was telling you I was looking for something. And one of the comments down below was from somebody. They said they felt like they were watching Blue's Clues, and they were like, it's right there, because it was literally right there, and I was looking around for it. So we've all done that, right? But yeah, if you ever see my pencil in the middle of one of these builds, go ahead and let me know down in the comments where the hell it is. So anyway, like it's going to help. Christmas tree. I am going to simply draw a Christmas tree. Now, if you're not artistic, who cares? This is rustic. Doesn't have to look perfect. I am going to kind of eyeball this, and I'm going to kind of just sketch out a little tree here, something along these lines. And I'm just going to come across and mirror that. And I am kind of, rounding off these bottom pieces here because, that's kind of a little more rustic looking than a squared off, really geometric looking modern tree. So that's it. I don't know if it's going to show up or not, but I drew a freaking Christmas tree. Draw your own Christmas tree. Don't draw my Christmas tree because you might not like my Christmas tree. Draw your own. We're going to head over to the bandsaw. If you don't have a bandsaw, you can totally use a handheld jigsaw for this. But we're going to head over and we're going to cut out this Christmas tree, and then we're going to get back over here and assemble this thing. So let's get after it. All right, we are back, and this is my Christmas tree that I cut out. Look, if you don't like it, do it your own. Put a trunk at the bottom. I don't care. Make it your own, right? All right, this is going to go together fairly simply. The only thing we need to do now is we need to measure our sides. Now, I did not give you the cut lengths for these pieces because pallet wood has a little bit of a tendency, and I mean a lot when I say a little bit, to not be extremely accurate. So instead of telling you the dimensions, I'm going to put this on here and I'm going to mark it, and then I'm going to cut it. And I'm actually going to cut these two pieces and tack these in place prior to putting my top and bottom on, marking them, because I want this to be as close as possible while maintaining that kind of vibe that we're talking about. So let me cut these two pieces to length real quick. I'll be right back from the miter saw. And I know for a fact that the safety police just saw me use my miter saw without my mask, so woo, woo, they're coming. All right, now that we've got our two side pieces, we can take our top and our bottom, line up one end, and mark our other. And again, the reason that I'm doing this is I don't want to take the chances of pallet wood and making measurements with my tape measure. I would much rather line it up this way and get everything cut to length at that point. So let me head over once again to the miter saw, get these cut. And you see what I'm saying? So this piece goes up here and this piece goes down here, and they won't fit any other way. So now all we are going to do is we are going to glue and tack this together. Now, I'm not going to put any glue in these two joints in the center. There's really no need, because once this thing goes together and we get all of our pieces glued and tacked in place, this is going to be completely perfect. It's going to hold. You know what I mean? So we're going to start with our side pieces. I'm going to just kind of lay this out so I know what goes where. This is probably going to be outdoors. So I'm going to cover my ass and I'm going to put some Titebond 3 on here. And then we're going to simply line up our edge piece, tack it in place. All right, we have our two side pieces put together. And now we can get our top and bottoms put on. And they're going to go on exactly the same way. And once we glue and tack this in place, it's going to hold everything together. So same thing, bead of glue, some brads, and this project is close to finished. All right, that is it. By cutting out our tree and creating the negative view of this tree, the negative space here now takes on whatever's behind it. So like right now, my shirt is behind it. Right now, there's a bunch of crap behind it. But hey, brick wall would look great sticking through here with you hanging it up on the wall. Your drywall is going to give it that. But take it and put some wrapping paper on the back of this, and then you'll see that through the front of your tree. Decorate this however you want to make it your own. Endless shapes, endless sizes, blueprint for you to get out and make yourself a rustic piece of wall art that looks like this. This can be done for any holiday season, any shape, any design. Do it better than I did it. Do it just like I did it. Just get out and do it however you do it. So like I told you at the beginning, if you guys are new to my channel, please click that subscribe button, turn on those notifications. We do a lot of beginners builds here, and we sprinkle in some intermediate stuff occasionally. We built a really cool outdoor table out of 2x4s. We've built some walnut sconces. We built a really cool modular shoe rack that we posted. All those videos are over on my channel. You can check out the intermediate playlist. They're all there. But yeah, if you're new, please take your time to leave us a comment, positive or negative. Let me know what you thought about today. I answer each and every one of your comments. It's getting harder to do the more my subscriber count goes up, but I am still current with each and every one of you guys who've taken the time to talk to me. I've taken the time to talk back. So that's all I got for you today. 5 more holiday builds. Hope you enjoyed today's episode. We will be back next Friday, a week from today, for beginners episode. I think it's 13 already. If you like today, you'll like our beginners builds. We stay away from holiday builds most of the time, but we do 3 projects that are very easy builds for you guys to do as novices out in your shop. So that's all I got. Appreciate your time as always, and we will catch you on YouTube.